Good morning, everyone. As always, you are listening Knowledge Empowers podcast. Today with you is me, Kat. 안녕하세요.
And Baruch.
And collage.
Good morning.
When did we switch the introduction?
I don't know.
We just did.
We just did, exactly. Da, 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 da. So we were discussing today the topics that we want to cover. And let's tackle an interesting one. How do you ask for a salary raise?
A fun fact, I never asked for a salary raise. Have you
Really?
guys? Yeah, have you?
I did, yes.
I did once, but I think it was useless.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think that the whole environment and the whole situation as it was set, I think that when I came up with like, hey, I deserve a better salary because I'm doing this and this and this, it was like, do I really need to persuade you? Like, can't you see it from day to day? Like now I need a special meeting for you to throw all these materials to you suddenly so that I can create a business case for myself. Like, is that really necessary? I think that shouldn't really happen, or I don't see it as a good way to do that. I since then I haven't asked for salary raise.
I just wanted to ask you, how did you ask for a salary raise and were you successful eventually?
For me or what?
You.
So far I was always successful, but I would literally go back at the beginning where you guys need to start to look at it or how to look at it. And also I would share what is healthy organization versus if you have also a good manager. So I will show different point of views. One is if you are junior and you never worked and you are just applying for a job, let's say, and let's say you still live with your parents. So the first thing what you need to do is to literally write down what are your costs of living, right? So if you live with your parents, do you pay rent or are you helping them with the rent? So how much should you give to your parent for the rent? I don't know, how much is your phone that you need to pay, right? Your bill. Do you have a car? Do you need to feed the car? So literally write down your cost. And maybe you will end up with some sort of a sum, an amount that would cover up your costs. And then, okay, maybe you would want to have some more money, maybe 200 euro or whatever, to go to cinema, etc. And that's something you will get your maybe a base salary. Now, don't overdo it because you also need to know what is the average salary for junior, right? So if it's, let's say, 1,500, you cannot go and ask for 2,000 because no one will give you 2,000. So be realistic. And then when you go and you start applying for a job and you get that question, how much money would you like to get? You simply state the amount. You don't need to explain why are you asking, let's say 1,500, etc. You just say 1,500 because you know that would cover your costs as well as you would be making some savings. The second part is there is still a myth, and now I work over 22 years, where people still think that after your trial period, so after the 3 months of working in some place, your salary is raised. Never ever have I had my salary raised after 3 months. I don't know whether you guys had, but that's for me is pure myth. I don't even know a company that is doing that. So Collage is heavily thinking.
Yeah, I'm heavily thinking, even if I heard that myth, after 3 months,
I still get that question when I do interviews, but it's a pure myth. So guys, such a thing doesn't exist. And
at least here, maybe in other countries.
Maybe, but not in here. If you are senior, so I'm going to talk about myself. It took me actually 1 year to find myself a job. Maybe people are scared. Maybe people were able to calculate my age, blah, blah, blah. But also me as a senior, having lots of experience, of course, I was not looking for junior positions. I never even applied for junior positions. And same is, I knew that, okay, how much will I be allowing myself to drop from the current salary I had to go down, and what will be the lowest amount that I will never go. And so when I was applying for jobs and start going on an interviews, I knew the amount that under which I will not go. And of course, I was not even forced to look for a job, but I really wanted a change. So these are the first basic rules that you need to look at it before you even do anything. Why? Forget that in the first year, you can ask for salary raise. Forget it. You really need to be able, let's say, even like prepare yourself psychologically that from that salary that you're gonna ask at the beginning, you should live for 2 years, as an example, right? And so that's your what's the word? Base start, I can say that's where you are basically starting. If you then going to start thinking, I would like to get a salary raise, you need to make sure of number of things. First, you are a good performer. You are constant good performer, not necessarily only first 3 months or first 6 months, or your behavior going like first 6 months you are awesome, and then let's say you would ask for a salary raise or bonus or something, and your boss makes you angry, so suddenly you go down and you are not performing. Well, forget it. You will never get any type of salary raise.
How do you know you are a good performer? What are the signs?
Signs of a good performer? For me, all I would even ask people, just do what is in your contract. The companies would look totally different if people would at least do what is in their contract. And you guys know I've seen a lot, so but let me just continue with that part. So you need to be constant in your performance. You cannot go up and down, up and down, up and down. Another one is
constantly bad is then also an option.
Yeah. Then you get PIP or
I mean,
so-called PIP.
all this discussion reminds me of one joke, like on the interview, the job interview. So, why do you want to work with our company? Why do you want this job? And the reply is that I don't like to starve. So yeah, that's what reminds me. That's what you reminded me when you were talking about like get my shit together when it comes to all the money, because all the expense we had, all the costs for living, so that we don't starve at the end.
Yep. And so you have constant performance. Then also that's also not enough, because there are other of your colleagues that have constant performance. So what else is there? You should always work on your skill set. Become better in certain things. Do some things on top, not 200% like suddenly, but maybe do some volunteering, maybe start helping your colleagues become the buddy whenever you have a newcomer. Maybe ask your manager with what kind of things you could help with. But don't go into this aspect that, I want a salary raise, that's why I'm doing it. Do it from a perspective you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to develop, because that will bring you networking, that will bring you opportunities. And then my suggestion, if salary raise, start first conversation after a year and a half. And why? It's because first 6 months at the company, you're only learning what you're supposed to do. And your colleagues are just teaching you. So the first 6 months, there is zero productivity actually from you towards the company. Then the other 6 months, is when you are starting to show what you've learned, starting to apply. And the third 6 months is literally showing the consistency in your performance, right? That you are capable to hold what you've learned and you're performing it, you're able to repeat the performance, and that you will not go, let's say, down. And that's when you should have or want to have the first conversation. And each company has, of course, different cycles for salary raising, etc. So it's not about like, hey, manager, I want my salary raise, but you could literally ask, if I would want to have a salary raise, what are the steps for me to either apply, or for you as a manager to apply for my salary raise? What are the
Conditions?
Conditions, yes. What are the conditions for that? Because it can happen that if, for example, I used to have developers on a web part, and I show them, and I was very clear to them that I had, let's say, 2 bands, so the being in a table, 2 bands, and once you reach the highest one, I cannot go further up with the salary. You literally need to rotate if salary is what you are concentrating. That's the highest thing I can give. And I was very transparent, but not all managers are transparent. So you need to know what is the maximum, or how is that particular department set, that maybe that department cannot go higher. And if you do want to have higher salary, you will need to rotate.
This is an overview from the corporate perspective, I would say. So if the company is big, when it comes to smaller companies, it looks totally different, or it can look totally different. There are companies, and you touch the point of transparency, that not all the managers are transparent, that you should wait and stuff like that. From what I have friends in smaller companies, I know it's not working like that. In smaller companies, when you need the money, you can get the money, basically speaking. When it comes, for example, to Otvorena Hra, there is full transparency. Everybody knows how much money you get. Plus, there is always this question like, okay, so we've got this bulk of the money at the end of the month. How much do you want? Because you deserve some part of it because you've delivered. So how much actually do you want out of this full bulk of money? And there was another example of some other other company where it was already about 40 people, so it's not really the small company. And there was again a full transparency of salaries, and so the employees saw also the salary of their CEO. And few of the employees came to the CEO like, "Oh, we think you deserve more, so take more out of what we've earned, because you are CEO, you are doing great, so take more." And he was like, "No, I have my things covered, so it's fine as it is." So it can happen that there are companies out there which works differently than in corporate world, what we were talking just now. So and I like, by the way, I like much more this transparency attitude. That's what I'm trying to achieve. Like when there is a possibility of having extra budget, having extra money, I'm always looking for a possibility like how to empower people to decide who they're gonna award or who they're gonna reward with certain amount of money, because it's our common ground, it's our common decision, our common effect or impact we have, and not just on the company or on the world, but that's how much we earn, basically, how much we've earned as a team, and we should then decide what we are going to do with it.
Correct. Also, when in certain age or with the maturity, you reach a salary when you are pretty happy. I mean, of course, everyone wants more, but I mean, you're able to save, you're able to pay your mortgage, etc. And so your motivation factor is actually not the money, but your motivation factor is the work itself, colleagues, skill set, whether you are able to be still valuable in the market if suddenly whatever would happen and you would end up on the street, let's say. And so, for example, in my current job role, I had my first conversation with my manager without even like going asking for higher salary. I just wanted to know exactly where do we stand in our department with the bands, will there be allowed any growth, etc. After 2.5 years is when I asked first time, and I only was curious, nothing more.
There is
So-
interesting study when it comes to what you mentioned, like salary raise and the motivation. There was this interesting study that they were giving extra money to people, and they were checking their happiness levels, basically. And what was interesting is that everybody was happy at the beginning once they get the shot, when they got the extra money, when it comes to salaries, but it was gone in 3 months.
Yep.
So after 3 months, people were like, I'm basically the same level as I was before, although I'm getting 300 more euros or whatever, but I feel the same level of happiness as I was those 3 months before I've got the salary raise. So yeah, the motivation, this extrinsic motivation is not the best one. I wouldn't really depend only on that, or make the most of my motivation based on that bulk of money. It's totally different when we compare it to also Maslow's pyramid. Okay, so if it's the money you need and those basic money, that salary raise increases you, but you're still at the bottom when it comes to all the security and basic stuff, that's gonna help a lot. But as soon as you've covered the basics, all the money afterwards, it's just like, yeah, I've got them 3 months ago and I need more.
Yeah, or something.
I think for salary raise as a motivator, it's really not a good motivator.
Yeah,
But at the same time, if you don't appreciate someone at least with the appropriate salary, I think it could be very good demotivator.
Correct. So let me now, I will tackle two more aspects. If you have a good manager who is doing their, let's say, homework, and have a transparency, you literally don't have to ask for salary raise, because that manager, what they should do is have the list of their employees. Where do they stand with their salaries? What is the benchmark in the market with their job roles? Whether you meet the market targets or they are way below, or maybe they are above. When was the last time their salary was raised? And then you also check which of these people are your key people, stating, for example, let's say I had, for example, an architect, and I knew that if he leaves suddenly, I'll be struggling for a year with one specific software because his knowledge was not transferred anywhere. And business-wise, it would had a very big impact on my business. So I knew that's my key person, for example. And I checked all of, like, did my duty, did my, benchmarking, and I saw that he's way, let's say, below. And so then I checked internally, do I need to prepare my forecast budget? How do I need to do it? When am I applied to start asking for employees' requests? Where is the company stating from the salary request? Because it can be that specific company wants to stay on a low profile and rather have the fluctuancy, but still keep that they are cheap, right? So you never know in which company you are. Once I did all this homework and I found out, yes, we are working on.
For those of us who haven't been managers, can you say what you mean by benchmarking the person?
So benchmark is, so let's say you are a software architect. And so you have, or the HR people have, benchmark and compare the same position or title of the position within other companies in the same country. So you know where the salary is moving.
Okay.
And that's the benchmark. So you check, let's say I would be paying an architect 1,500 euro. And that's a senior architect. And then I check the benchmark and you actually find out that the architects are between 2,000 to 3,000 euro. So I know that I am way below, and it's just one headhunter and my architect is gone, and then my business will be struggling for 1 year. So I need to do something with it right now, immediately, right? So that's the benchmark. And then once I found all the details, I sit with that employee and I spoke to him and explained, look, I know you didn't ask for salary raise or anything, but I did my homework. And currently I'm working on to be able to get your salary raise. Don't get any hopes though, but I just really want to be open with you that I'm going to try. And then that's how I started. Some people say you should not tell it to employees because you are giving a false hope. It's all about the trust between you and that employee. Mm-hmm. I trust in my employees, and I really wanted to show them that I'm working hard on it, but I could be stopped in any step of that process. And that way, if you're a good manager, your employees don't ever need to ask for salary raise, as well as if you're transparent, those who are not performing well, they know that even if they would open the question, you would simply give them an answer. Sorry, but you are way below standards. You are not performing well. We already had numerous discussions about this. You are not constant in your performance. What are we talking about? Start doing at least what's in your contract. That's what you are even getting paid monthly. Mm-hmm. But you are not even doing that. So that's one way. So that was one perspective. If you have a manager that are doing their job, let's say. Another aspect, and I see this with many employees, sometimes when you are too long in one company, and depends on the salary raising policies, it can be that you are too long in company, literally years, and the new hires get much higher salary compared to you, because back then when you started, that was the starting point of a salaries, but things are changing. So the new hires have really much higher, and the manager is not able to hire your salary because of internal policies, blah, blah, blah. And so usually what employees do if they want to get a higher salary is they quit the job, and let's say every 2 years, if they focus in only on salary, they start changing corporations. And that's how their salaries start getting higher. If it's that you are looking for the money, maybe that can work for maybe 6 years. But if you keep doing this for a longer period of time, and then you would get me for an interview, actually, I would never hire you, because I would see you are, first of all, the way I see it is you are fluctuant. You are not sustainable and capable to hold one position in one company. In 2 years, you are not able to understand the company, the culture of the company, what do we work. And there are very rare people that are able to deliver in 2 years in consistent, sorry, let me rephrase that sentence. Capable, consistently deliver performance and the work in 2 years. So usually they come, they do lots of cows, and then they leave. Well, thank you very much. So nothing else. But that's another way of how you can get your salary days. It's like you keep changing the companies, but that would only work the first few years, and then it would turn against you, because then you would not be able to actually find a job or get a job. And if you really want to grow, what worked for me is actually, I really focused on, I know how much money I want as a base, like what Kolach said, as a base to cover my needs, cover my mortgage. I wanted to save, I still wanted to go on vacation, etc. But what worked for me was really, and until I even changed my mind around it and start thinking that way, was really focus on my skill set. What are my values? What are my strengths that I can bring to the job, right? And then once I start the work, I really wanted to show I can be persistent in that work, that it's not just here and right now that you will experience something good, but it's consistent across not 1 year, 2 years, etc. And then I can bring more on my shoulders, or once I've learned this and I now know how to do this, I can now take more, and so on. And it just sort of went natural that then my manager said, you know, Kat, I see you are performing really well. I am able now to give you, I don't know, 5% or whatever. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't even expect it. So that's what worked for me.
Can you, as a manager, if it comes to that point that you sit in a quiet room, in a meeting room with another person who wants to ask for a salary raise, what would you expect of them to say or show you? Or
I take it as a curiosity, and I had very open conversation. Actually, that was one of the points why I wanted to become a manager, is to find out all the details behind the salary raise. Because one thing I really hated was when I came for a conversation, I won a salary raise, and I was top performer. Okay, so there was no questions that I'm not delivering constantly. But the conversation I had at that time with my manager was, you need to be top performer, you need to deliver work in a consistent way, you need to not only do your job, you need to do some volunteering work, you need to do some things on addition, that you are more, doing more than others, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why do I need to keep listening this crap? Don't you know me? Like, I work for you 2 years already, and you are giving me the marks number 1 that I am top performer. Why are you telling me that's what I need to do when you gave me that mark that I am doing it? So then I stopped that manager and I said, okay, we already know that what you just said, I check every single point. Can we now cut the crap and let's move to the step number 2 and tell me, can you give me salary raise? Yes, no. And then, it's not that easy. And again, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what the? So that was the reason I really, really wanted to find out how it really is from the other side. And then I did find out once I became the manager. Well, there are managers who are lazy because there is lots of administration work behind it.
Just wanted to say, like, and I found out. And when somebody came, I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't, and there you go, administration.
Yeah, and that's why I started to use, right? La, 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 la. No, I was always very transparent. So really depended the department I worked at, different policies applied. And then I could say, and as I've mentioned, I did my due diligence. Every time I became a manager to that very specific department, the first thing I did was get my employees, find out where they are, when was the last time their salary was raised, where they are on the benchmark. So if they would come and have that conversation, I could then tell them either there is no possibility for me to raise your salary because, and I would explain, and I would even tell them, right now in my department, you reach the highest point. If you do want to get more, you need to rotate, you need to start working on your skills, and you need to go elsewhere. This is the highest point. And also on my team meeting, I showed it to my team member. Where do I hire? On which point? What is the highest point that you can get in this department? If you have these skills, this is where you work. This is how I can move you up. What is even the period of the year where I am capable to move you, just so they also are aware. And that helped a lot because everyone understood where they stand.
So basically you're telling me I don't really need to do anything to get a salary raise. I don't need to have a specific conversation with you if I am one of the top performers, if I have the right manager.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's
I had managers like that. Even right now, I have managers like that. And currently I am in a team we are all seniors. We have years of experiences. All of us are high performers because we are responsible for certain geos and we need to do deliverables. And I don't think that we had this conversation. I can only speak for myself, but I don't think that my peers, my colleagues had the conversation with our manager, because she really took care of us. And she was also always transparent, and she shared it with us. And when there was the possibility, she did that. If you have a good manager who are really doing their job, you don't need to have that conversation. That's my point of view.
Mhm.
And I had that experiences. I had the other experiences as well. If you have a lazy manager,
Then
And then
will
you
the
need to
talk
listen.
help?
Well, that talk will help you to understand and make a decision, right? So if, let's say that you are already in the stage when you are thinking you want to have your own flat, you want to move out from your parents, or maybe you're renting, right? But you want to have your own place. And for that, you need money. That's your concentration. And let's say you worked already 3 years and nothing changed. And that way, you know, where do you stand with your current manager? Because you know, in that department, under that manager, you are not able to get a salary raise. That's your decision. Okay, I now need to make that change and start looking elsewhere, because this is where I just hit the wall and I'm not able to move any forward, even though I am a performer, I do my work, I do my due diligence, etc. But I want to now move even in this part. And you make the decision. Now it's time for me to start doing interviews.
I would add here that it's always good to have this conversation with your manager or with your leader. And I don't mean specifically to ask for salary raise or to have this conversation about salaries, but to have the conversation about the plans and the future. Like, okay, I went to my manager and told them that, okay, we are planning a family. What are the possibilities? Because now the manager knows, or the leader knows, and they can prepare not just, maybe there are some bonuses which you don't know about, and it's not about the salary, but other some other benefit, like 2 weeks vacation or something like that. So when you're planning anything, or if you're thinking of anything, just announce it, because the salary is not the only point the leader can help you with. It could be extra vacations, it could be extra home offices and stuff like that. So having this planned discussion is always good. So that's, I would not just recommend, I think that it's like a mandatory thing to do, because it's a preparation, not just of you or your manager, but your team as well. So you all need to collaborate somehow.
And college really hit the nail by head, because when you have the discussion, yay! And for example, you will agree, you know what I can do? Like, I'm not able to raise your salary, but what I'm able to agree with you, how about you work 4 days a week from home office? That will make you already lots of saving, because you would pay the public transport, maybe by car. So you need to put the petrol. And just by cutting these two, you know, that you can stay and work from home from 4 days, suddenly you save another amount of the money from the salary that you before you couldn't even calculate with. So exactly those conversation really, really helps. And also for the managers, I remember, if we go back, when we had this discussion and people said, you know, if I could stay at least in home office 3 days, like they calculated before, like themselves, 3 days, this is how much money would I save. Okay, I'll allow that, because I know you are a good performer. You are not a lazy person. You are not trying to lie to me, but you are really, you know, struggling with the current situation. If that's the way I can help you, why not? Right? For me as a manager, important part is business works. I trust my employees, the employees trust me, and I know they perform, they deliver. Then if that's the only one simple thing I can help them with, why not? Right? So it's always a combination of things. Like the last, I can say 10 years, money for me is not a motivator factor at all. Because I know my base salary that would cover all my needs I want. And that's not my motivational factor. If that's what I get, what I'm really looking for is a manager who is not afraid of me, a manager who, if these are my skill set, please make me busy. And if that manager will fulfill that, I'm super happy. And if you are giving me challenging jobs where I need to come up with creative ideas or work with more people, etc., that's my motivation factor. So you need to know what is your motivation factor. But another very important thing is you cannot do this like for 6 months, I'll be like, and then another 6 months, because then no one wants to work with you.
Mhm.
You need to know what are your motivation factor and keep with them. But don't go like on a roller coaster.
It doesn't mean that you can't have a bad day. That's a different thing.
No, you can have a bad day, but I'm saying not that 6 months you're performing, and suddenly another 6 months you are not performing at all.
Mhm.
You know, it's like consistency. Like, come on.
But it happens. I mean, from my perspective, it can happen that you are a performer at the beginning, but then, for example, your baby borns, and your priorities changes. Suddenly, being the top performer, staying 1 hour more at your work just to get the extra jobs done is not really that important. So it's okay to take the leave or like being more absent. It's just that you need to have your expectations set correctly. Okay, so if you lower the performance, don't expect that everybody will be rooting for you or something like that. So it depends, so.
But I also mean like a behavioral change. So let's say the first 6 months you are helpful to everyone and you really want to show off. And suddenly, another 6 months, you would be like, leave me alone. And you start like, barking at people, like really 180 degrees behavior change. And then you're like, what is wrong with you?
Do it after you sign the contract.
That sometimes happens, right?
Yeah. Or make sure your contract is unlimited, right? Because then it's much tougher to get rid of you.
I think that then when this happens, there should be a leader and come and ask, okay, so what's wrong? What changed? Because without that, it's just one way.
We hope we helped you guys to answer many of your questions, or the way we look at it, or the way we are having our own experiences. If you have questions, you can ask us. Or if you have a topic you want us to cover, let us know. Otherwise, annyeong!
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This podcast represents our own opinions, experience, and our own ideas. We do not represent any official statement from our employers, and this is not their official channel representing the company.